Good morning to everyone. I'm Barbara Brown, Clinical Director of Redbird Therapy. We are based in Toronto, but we have this incredible international partnership with the Wema Centre in Mombasa, Kenya. And we get to take a group of folks every year to go for a knowledge share program where we get to learn from the Wema Centre, from the staff, and from the kids that they are serving, the beneficiaries of that program. And today I am so excited to have Lucy Yinda with us, who is the founder of Wema Centre. And she had a dream. As she got bit by a calling, it snuck in there, and she made a decision to make something happen. The Wema Centre Foundation was started in 1993. So she's been involved in rescuing and rehabilitating street-connected kids in Mombasa for decades. And the center is incredible. It serves up to 150 children at any time. And they do this with almost zero government funding. You know, the circumstances in Kenya are quite different in terms of child protection and social services than we experience here in Canada and the US. So today is an opportunity for us to talk with Lucy, hear how she has pulled this off for so long, and to talk a lot about when you get a calling, what is it? How do you know? How do you make it happen? So I'm going to bring Lucy in here as a spotlight so we all can see her. And say a big welcome and thank you for giving us your time. I know it's evening for you there.
Yeah, it's 5 p.m. here.
Yeah, it's very kind of you to show up and put your dinner off a little to join us. Lucy, I really wanted to start with just hearing a bit about you. You know, who are you and what drives you, and where'd you grow up, and who are the people that are most influential when you think about this whole idea of having a calling and acting on a calling?
Okay, apart from the first part, which is easier, the other one I will attempt. Lucy, and I am from Kenya. I think those of you who know Kenya, there are several tribes and communities. I'm Kikuyu, and I come from the north of Kenya. I was born in a place called Karatina. Karatina is a small town. It's actually a village by American standards. It's a small place. One of 7 siblings. And basically just grew up in the up country, not in the city. And I guess that's why the whole idea of street children surprised me so much. So that is me. Otherwise, I've grown up in Mombasa. I mean, most of my adult life, I've been in Mombasa. I live in Mombasa. I'm married. I have 3 children, all adults. 4 grandsons, and my husband and I live, just the 2 of us now, in Mombasa, and that's where Wema Centre is, as Barbara will know. Yeah. So you're talking about a calling. People think of calling in kind of a religious fashion sort of thing, but I would say a calling is, to me, a feeling of responsibility, a feeling of wanting to do something with a form of urgency. Like, I feel I need to do this. I feel that it is my duty, almost like a debt. And the Wema calling, if I may say that, they call it a Wema calling, was simply a feeling of, I really do want to work, do something about the street children, the children that I meet every day as I go to work. And I feel some form of responsibility, but more so, if I may try to find, from the emotional point of view, because to be honest, that's what has driven me more than even more of a conscious responsibility. It's a form of compassion, just feeling it's not reasonable that I'm sitting here comfortably sleeping full night, covered in nice duvet, warm, and have had a proper meal and everything is perfect for me. And then there are children out there who sleep out in the open, looking over their shoulders for, just to survive and to make sure that they are safe. And so many things that happen to the street children. So it's a form of, I felt I should do something. I should do what I can. I obviously can't solve the problem 100%, but I would want to be counted as one of those people who tried, even if the problem was never solved. I want to know that I tried. I want to know that I put my best foot forward and worked hard and tried very hard to do something that makes a difference to those children.
So it just, when you say those words, I want to know that I tried, it really touches me, like my heart. I feel that with a lot of warmth and a lot of strength in that, because then you're in a position where you know you are walking a path where you're in line with your values. You're in line with, what a sense of purpose is here, on this earth and in this lifetime. Would you tell us a bit about the beginning of Wema Centre and how that started for you, and kind of walk us through how you got to where you are now with the program?
This program has been running for over 30 years. I think this is our 31st year in the formal setting of Wema Centre. I started the work a few years before that, a few years before the formal registration of the organization, like 3 or 4 years before that. And I was simply walking down the streets and greeting kids. At that time, I had an office in town, in Mombasa town, on the main street called Moi Avenue. And I was an insurance executive. I was running a company that had a lot of influence in terms of business. And every day I would drive down the street and I would see these children. And I would sometimes give them coins, give them money, sometimes just ignore them. But even if I didn't do anything, I chose to just drive past, it actually never left my head. And I think this happens to a lot of people. You kind of want to pretend that you didn't see them, but you did see them. And it happened to me so many times. And then at some point I told myself, can you just quit pretending? Can you just quit acting like you didn't see them? And what the hell does that 50 shillings do? Well, I started asking myself a whole lot of questions that, all right, so I've stopped ignoring them. So I'm now saying hi and buying a few things for them. So how is that helping? So, so I don't know, for some reason, it became a debate in myself, and only to myself at that point. I did not discuss with people because I wondered whether I'm the only person who is seeing this, who is experiencing this. So I kind of kept it to myself, and I thought, okay, I will just do my thing. I will just, every time I get an opportunity, I will see what I can do. So I started having lunch dates with the kids, and I had lunch dates with 6 girls every week on Thursdays. So we had this arrangement. They knew where to meet. We had agreed on where we should be meeting, and we would meet there every Thursday, and I would buy lunch, and we would just sit there and chat. And this went on for weeks and weeks. And then of course, you know, getting to know them better made me realize that there's a lot more needed than just what I was doing. And especially on the medical side. The medical side is what hit me most at that time, because there was one girl who was not well, and she needed constant medical attention. And every Thursday before lunch or after lunch, we would go to a doctor. But it just happened that every time we had it occurred to me that the medicine wasn't working because she was not keeping the medicine in a safe place, and there were other people interested in that medicine. So she sometimes didn't use it, sometimes she just lost it. So I started thinking about housing. I started thinking about where can she stay, where she will be safe, where she can have her medication and get better. So that happened to be the starting point of Wema Centre, to be quite honest. That's how it all began. Now, I can tell you it was a very difficult decision because I didn't have a way of housing them. I didn't even understand what they needed. Now looking back, at that time I thought, well, maybe let's just get a house. But it was not possible to get a house. I was able to rent a house, a small house, financially speaking. But I did not know that people would not rent houses to street children. So that became a very big problem for me, because I needed to convince other people that street children can be kept in a normal home or can live in a normal home. And that's when the confrontation between myself and other people began, or rather the discussion between myself and other people in terms of the children began, because I became like a crusader. I now had to convince people that it's necessary to do this. So the first people I talked to, of course, were my family, my husband, and for him, it was just like, you're wasting your time. And he didn't think it would work because, first of all, I was a very busy person. I had a very busy job. And he didn't understand how I'm going to balance the challenge of the kids and my job and my own children, because at that time, my children were pretty young. However, he decided to support. He said, all right, if you think you can do it, we go with it. So I rented some rooms at the YWCA. Do you have the YWCA in your country?
We do, yeah.
You do? So we have, I think we still have a hostel in downtown in Mombasa. And I went over there, and the reason I went there is because they said it's called Young Women Christian Association. So I thought, oh, these are women, these are Christians, they will understand. So, big assumption.
I really love the sweet naivete of that moment where you're like,
I'm telling you,
they're good people, they're going to get on board.
Yeah, you know. So I went over there and I spoke to the management, and I said to them, I have 6 children and 2 of them have babies, and they need a place to sleep while I plan or maybe get a more permanent solution. So they accepted, and I put in a 2 weeks deposit on the 2 rooms. And I went to my church and I got a young boy to help me. He was like a student, so he said he had time, he could go over there and check on the kids every morning. And basically spend time with them and teach them a few things, you know, like writing, like singing, just keep them company. And we stayed with that arrangement for a week, and it worked well. But in the middle of it, they called me. Okay, of course, I used to go there every day, but I didn't realize there was a problem. Then one day they called me and they said, sorry, but we can't keep these kids anymore because they don't fit in with our other guests. They're very loud, they're very dirty. They don't know how to respect the silence. You know, like when there's time for TV, people want to stay in the lounge. These kids are not understanding that. They're running around, sitting on the television, overrunning the bathtub, you know, stuff like that. So they must go. So I said, oh, but I can't take them back to the streets. So give me time to find a house. So I don't know whether, I mean, it's a very long story, Barbara. I eventually found a house and managed to, you know, house them. And then in came another 50 and another 10 and another. So that's
Let
that's
me
how.
ask you a question there, Lucy. What in that moment, what kept you going? You know, you've had this awakening, you're feeling this sense of duty, and you're like, okay, these kids can't go back to the street, but this is not working. What buoyed you up to face, you know, clearly some really significant stigma and discrimination, got to be some financial barriers there?
Mhm. I felt the more difficult it got, the more energy I got.
Wow.
It's incredible because I didn't even consider giving up. I was like, for example, when I was looking for a house and I saw so many houses, and each time I liked a house, the landlord would say, but who is coming to stay here? And I would say, children from the streets, because I wanted to be honest and truthful about it. But I will have good people taking care of them and staying with them. Immediately they would pull out. And that gave me energy to go and look at another house and another house. And at that point, I thought to myself, I just need to be quiet, and I'm sure a solution is coming very soon. And that's what happened. While I was thinking of what to do, and I don't have an option, and my time at the Y is coming to an end, I got a call from an agent. And he said to me, I think you left your number here. You're looking for a house. I said, yes, I did. And do you have, so they said they have a house, and said, would you be willing to house 3 children? You know, this time I have learned that I need to make that clear from the beginning, so as not to waste time. And he said, of course. In fact, the lady who owned the house sort of understood, because I had left that message already, and she said, I want to do this. And I never met her because she was relocating. She was going back to UK or to another place, but she made it possible. And she said she has no issues at all with the children staying in her house. So,
Wow.
for me,
Somebody stepped up beside you.
Yeah, it just worked. Fine, I had to work hard. I had to sweat it out. It was not easy at all, but it was okay to do that. I didn't mind doing that. The energy was there, and I was motivated enough. And I actually felt like, you know, I really just need to push until I get some answers and some solutions. I would say even faith. I believed that I would get there. I had faith in God because I knew that God was behind it, and that He is overall and He's able to make it happen. So that was it.
So from at that level, you are just not alone from the get-go in this dream, in this idea, in this calling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I I in times where I have felt really called to be doing something, I remember feeling like, oh, this is super hard work. Like it's a lot of work, but it
Mhm.
didn't feel like work. I don't even know how
Yeah.
to make the decision because of course, like hours, I logged hours and hours, but
Yeah.
the drive or the energy in that calling felt like it kind of carried me,
Yes,
you
yes.
know?
It kind
And
of carries you. You find yourself like I I'm one person who I'm not a morning person. I will easily not wake up for breakfast and say, guys, I'll have breakfast later on. But when I have that kind of situation, I'll be up at 4 a.m. and I will keep going. And just, I don't know, it just gives you the strength. I would say God gives you the strength. And the fact that also I was seeing the difference that it is making.
what kind of differences did you see, like in the girls that you knew and were helping?
First of all, they were super excited that they have 3 meals a day, they have clothes, they can shower, and they have a roof over their head, even though it was 3 of them sharing in a tiny room. For them, it was a million times better than being out in the open in the streets. So you could see in their faces that they're feeling like they've reached a level they never dreamt of before. So they encouraged me because they're like, hey, we have to, we will work with you, we will do what you say, and we will tell our friends. And every day they told some more friends,
I imagine the three grew pretty quickly in number.
It grew very fast. It grew very fast. So yeah, it's. I think a calling is more is that's why it's calling, because it's something deep in you that you really can't explain or describe, but it pushes you to action.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And for me, I felt
Yeah.
like it's that calling is bigger than me, and I'm somehow a conduit in the middle of it. You know, I'm here in service, but um, the thing that is happening is less about me, except for that I need to be a part of it.
That is a fantastic description. It's not about me. And it's way bigger than me, way bigger than me. In fact, I don't even know what I'm doing in it, but let me play my part, kind of thing. Yeah.
Were there ever any moments along the way of self-doubt or, you know, naysayers, people who were critical of what you were doing that um, had you pause for a moment and reconsider?
There have been moments of just wondering whether I'm doing it correctly. I have not regretted doing it. I've not regretted reaching out and helping those children, but I've wondered whether I'm doing it in the best way I could. And often those times are distressing. Like, for example, when a kid runs away from the center, because there have been instances where a child has come, we have gone on a long journey together, and then they just disappear. And I've asked myself, what happened here? What did I do? What didn't I do? What did I do wrong? I have many questions. But I have always come back to, I did my bit, I did my best, and maybe I was needed in that child's life just for that moment or for that time. So I hope that where that child went next, she was or he was more prepared for whatever life presented to him or her thereafter.
Mm.
So yes, there are times when I've wondered, is this really the best way? And also there are times when I have been challenged by others. Like sometimes the government doesn't want us to do what we do. There are people who think that by feeding children in the streets, you're encouraging them to come to the streets and leave their homes. Of course, that's nonsense, but there are some times when we have that kind of opposition, if I can call it that. And I just take it in my stride, you know, I really just, what can I do? I just say, we're doing our best here. And any help needed is welcome. Any help that can be brought to us to, you know, just support, help move. Even if you're doing it differently, you could help us. If you want us to do it differently, you could still push in that direction as long as the result is positive. You know, so there are many different ways of doing things, but it doesn't mean one way is correct or more correct than other ways. But this is the way that felt able and capable of doing. And I have, to be honest, tried to be as faithful to it as possible.
Mm. Well, I mean, you are here this many years later,
Yeah,
still walking it, right? Wema Centre is alive and well and thriving, and these kids are, you know, incredible in terms of, I will say, from just being with you there for the last few years, and the kind of hope and the kind of joy that the kids that we've met have showed, and their resiliency is amazing, and the staff who have just like go the distance for these kids to give them an opportunity. It strikes me every time. I want to come back a little bit to this piece around, you know, when you are on this, being carried by this calling, and that thing that is bigger than you, and you end up with pieces that you just will never know, right? The kid who runs away, and you don't end up finding out why or where they went or what has happened, or the really good idea you got started and it sort of spins off and wilts. I wonder about what you think we need, if we're in the midst of our own calling, to withstand living with that kind of uncertainty, you know, because the story is never just a simple triumphant one. I have a calling, I acted on it, energy came behind me, and we had this lovely outcome, you know, like that's a very simple idea, and it'd be a great movie, maybe, but it's not really very true, right? There's all of these pieces that you just never actually get an answer on, or things don't wrap up. And I'm wondering what you've needed or how you have come to live with those kind of unanswered questions along the way.
I think that it's important for one to understand that you cannot solve all the problems. You cannot. There are many problems in the world, and it's impossible for one person, and it's impossible for me to solve all the problems. So of course, when I set out 30-something years ago, I thought 5 years down the road, there'll be no more street children in Mombasa.
Oh, I love that. I wish it was true.
I honestly was hoping that, you know.
Yeah.
And this is 30 years later. Just the other week, we had what we call the Wema birthday. We had a celebration in town. I don't know whether you saw it on our Facebook page or our website.
I did, yeah.
And we were celebrating with the children who have never been to any institution, who have never received any kind of support from anyone. And we went out there and said, guys, let's just come together. Let's talk, let's understand each other, and let's celebrate life. And we were celebrating their strength and their resilience. Because let me tell you, if you put me in their shoes, even for one day, maybe I will not survive. So we were celebrating, and we were trying to make them understand that they have a strength that's unusual, that not everybody can cope with the kind of life that they live. And they should not feel that they are any less than all of us or any one of us. So we were celebrating that, and we celebrated with all our hearts. We danced and sang and ate, and it was a fantastic celebration with about 600 children.
Wow.
And when I saw that, I mean, in the middle of it, in my mind, I'm asking myself, in this year, after 30 years of working, hoping to end this problem, what's this message? What's the message here? And we put them or we gave each, I mean, whoever wanted to speak, an opportunity to say what they feel. And they talked about their problems, and they talked about the challenges of living out in the streets. Some talked about the problem of not understanding who they are, where they came from, or where the people, their relatives went to. And, you know, you're listening to all these things and you're wondering, what bigger problem can somebody have than this? Because these kids are talking about things which any child in any normal home would die if they were put there. And they're there, and they're dancing away, and they're singing songs, and they're celebrating life. So it's at that point where you think life is a gift. Life by itself, just life. It doesn't matter what other things come with the life, the clothes, the cars, the education, the what. All those are just on the side, but life itself, the fact that you're here, you're breathing, is a gift. And at the end of it all, that's what we celebrate, that we're here on this earth, and we're celebrating it because we're here. Me talking to you now and listening to other people every day, and even that day listening to those children, is part of life, because we are together, we are one, we are a unit, we are human beings sharing a life. And it's an issue that I try to understand, but it came to life during that birthday party. And I'm reminded of that. I'm just trying to answer your question of how do I deal with those balls that drop? And the answer is simply, it doesn't matter. We have a life to live. We enjoy every single day. We try to lift each other up. If you fall, you lift me up. And we continue. That's it. That's it. And we smile and we enjoy the everyday blessings. And unfortunately, we forget to count blessings. We look at problems all the time. But if we were to remember that there's so many good things happening every day, every moment, then life would be worth celebrating. And we would forget the issues that tend to pull us back.
Or we find a way to hold those issues and move forward with them differently.
Differently. We take them as, probably I needed that problem in order to move to the next position, or to take the next step. So, and I'm not suggesting that it is a good thing for other people to suffer, but I'm saying suffering is also part of what we have on this earth. And if I'm being given the opportunity to help somebody, then I should do it with a smile. And I try to do that at Wema, and all our children try to help each other, and our staff members try to help the kids, to make them see a better way to live, and accept the challenges that have happened in the past as the wind, you know, the stuff that will make them move forward.
Yeah, one of my big learnings in coming and joining you each year is, you know, I came with a little bit of worry, to be honest. You know, who am I coming from Canada as, like, you know, I'm not a nice, well-intentioned gal, to be alongside with you and with the kids at Wema and the staff, and really asking, like, we come and we spend this incredible 1 week intensive with you, but thinking, what is it that I have to offer? What is it that we actually have to offer in this environment that is not our own? And you said in one of our early meetings, and I think Eunice also said this same, the program manager, she said to just be there as an open-hearted, loving, kind, present adult who looks at these kids like they matter and are worth the time of day, changes, right? It changes.
Yes.
And you know, every single year we come, I walk away feeling like I am changed more than I probably did any changing for others. And there's something kind of beautiful about getting to live into that experience of also receiving, you know. So
Yes.
on this path that is a calling, I love that the barriers actually made you fiercer. You know, they fired you up and they drove you forward. And I think there's something about when we are in service to those callings, when we are in service to something larger than ourselves, there are those benefits that strengthen us in our own lives. And
Yes.
we don't go in for it. You know, we're not in there to take care of our own needs, but it's every single time I am just feel so blessed and cared for, you know, by.
Let me add this to what you're saying. Every time I go to the streets, I don't know if you've had a chance to go to Makirunge or any of our street bases.
Every year, yeah, we go.
Yeah. Every time I mix with the kids in the streets, I try to kind of make myself closer to them by the way I dress, by the way even language, I try to speak their way so that we get to understand each other better. But they always tell me that, Mom, the fact that you're here, we are happy. You came, you loved us. That's why we are happy. And it's often that I get one or two kids saying, because you came, now I want to go to school. Now I don't want to live here. I want to get away. I don't want to take these drugs anymore because you came. That means I matter to you. And this always brings tears to my eyes. I mean, all these years you'd think I'm used to it, but I'm not, because I always feel I didn't even think like that when I left my house this morning. I thought, okay, today is a street day. I'll wear my rubber shoes and we'll be there ready to, you know, play games in the streets and serve bread and milk and things. And at least somebody will have a proper glass of milk today. But for them looking at us, they're seeing people who are different because they live better lives, but they have come and they're willing to be with us. They're willing to be like us for this moment because they don't see themselves as different. They see themselves as human beings. So this is what I'm saying. It's just human to human.
Yeah. And there's a magic in that, right? There's something in a way in that meeting human to human, something bigger than us is generated, right? We're feeling this calling by something bigger than us. And when we come together, human to human,
Yes.
out of deep mutual respect, then it feeds back
Yes.
into that, whatever that bigger thing is.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
You know, that respect is something that I've always wanted to explain, to express, because some people don't understand that street kids need respect. Street kids are human beings, and they may not have stuff, they may not have clothes, or even they may not behave properly. You know, they don't have they're not brought up to be courteous and all that, but they're human beings. And once you respect them, then they respect you back. So it's a mutual thing. They need to be treated with respect. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's very, very important. And that's what a lot of us miss when we go out to help those who we consider to be lesser. But they're not
Agreed.
really. Yeah.
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 Jerry, we've got a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, can we jump in with questions?
Please do. Let's move that
Yeah.
way.
All right. Hello, Lucy.
Hi, Jerry.
Horoaku. I am from
Hey,
Muranga
Wema.
myself.
I like that.
I know we must have this moment right now.
Uh-huh.
Such a pleasure to meet you.
And
I heard about you from Barbara when I first heard about Kutana, and I remember that we talked one evening, and she told me a little bit about Wema Centre. And I told her, I don't know, Barbara, if you remember, and I said the miracle is not that Lucy rescued children from the street, is that she sustained this work. Because, you know, in Kenya, we don't easily forget that it takes hands and legs and hearts and bodies to do the work. Sometimes here in the West, we forget because we talk about systems, or, you know, systems or agencies or organizations, but they're actually backed by human people. So it's easy to, you know, to give to work and forget, because we're not close to it. We donate and we are kind of always far away from it. And, you know, I just remember myself too, even as a young person, just wanting to be involved. You know, I can resonate to that story of knowing that street child on my path to catch a matatu, and that same person, you know, having a little relationship with them and not knowing what to do next. There's so many good quotes that you're saying. I wish we could remember all, but there's something I want to maybe ask for somebody like myself who is still trying to figure out, who maybe thinks I know my calling, or, you know, trying to know how to answer it. I had a quote once, you know, if you think about a calling as maybe responding to faith, you know, whether you call it a calling or faith. I had somebody once say that often when we have a calling, you know, it's like we move in faith, but we might underestimate the planning. And so, you know, they say, you know, pray like you're not planning, and then plan like you're not praying. And I just wonder what you can maybe offer, like how you know, I'm hearing you came from like the corporate sector, so I can already visualize that Main Street Mombasa, and you know, how for you, what was happening along the way. Like I've had the, you know, the discouraging people actually became motivators. It's like they showed you problems you hadn't thought about. But I wonder for you, like as you move from like this, you know, private sector person, what did you put into the planning to know about child development, about fundraising, you know, like who or
all
what
those things.
did you add to yourself, to do the work?
Well, that's a very good question, Jerry. You know, when one has to keep balancing the two, because like I said, you can easily get caught up in the emotions and forget that you need to do certain things, like fundraising, like what you just said, like documenting, like organizing the help that you need in a formal sort of way. For example, getting counselors on board, getting teachers, getting, you know, professionals to have an input in the lives of these children. It's not just, you're not just being driven by emotions. And yes, the corporate world background definitely helped me. In fact, a lot of people think I'm an administrator. I organize, I put things in place. I have diaries and schedules, and I document a lot of things. And we maintain registers of children, and who we try to build family trees for children as we do family tracing for those who don't know who their families are. There's a lot that goes on and that's why even when setting up center, I've tried to have as much professional backup as I can on staff and also people who support the center. Because yes, you need to do things properly, you know, and like you've said, there's so many people who start organizations like Wema, and they start with all good intentions because they feel strongly that they need to do something about a certain problem, but they don't have the staying power. Now, part of the reason is lack of organization. Because if you're not planning, if you don't have a good, shall we say, administrative support, then it all falls apart in a sense. You've got to be able to keep up with the records. And government also demands certain reports, explanations, visits. We have to negotiate a lot with government because sometimes the things we want to do are not easily accepted. For example, let me give you an example. We have a law that says all children at Wema have to be committed by the court to Wema Centre. So we have to go to the children's court and get a court order to allow us to keep the child at Wema Centre. Now, that is a process that can take several months. But you can not wait when you have a child who is probably lost and maybe very young, 2-3 years old, or something like that, and you leave them out in the open, in danger, while you do this process. So there are times when we have to go to court and say, this is my letter, this is my name, this is the place where the child is. We are negotiating that you allow us to secure the life of this child while you process the paperwork. So yes, there is a lot of administration involved, a lot of other work that is just very mechanical and very desk work, if I can put it that way. But a lot of people, when they start this kind of work, they're not prepared to do the legwork, to do the admin, and to get the paper, especially permits and documents in place, and therefore they are unable to sustain. So that's one of the reasons that the sustaining is not a common thing. I am fortunate to have had the background of working in an office and knowing the importance of having proper records and having proper licenses and having proper permits if need be, and maintaining information, keeping records. I have that background. And so, and I know what liability is if you have, so you don't take risks that you don't need to take, or if you take risks, then you make sure that they are covered, that you are covered. For example, that the government department, the children's department, is aware of what is happening at the center, so that they're, you're not doing things alone, isolation, and then getting into trouble. So yes, that is very important. Being organized is very important.
And
obviously.
Oh, sorry, Lucy.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I might add to that too, that there's points, when you're enacting a calling and you're making your dream happen, where there are things that come along that you don't know how to do. And either you got to learn how to do them, or you have to find someone else who can do them. And the truth is, you can't actually do everything that this calling is going to require to make it actually happen. So I found if I try and keep the initiative small and I'm in control of all of it, it's going to die because my capacity is limited. It's just me on my own. I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to do a,
Yes.
you know, I don't know about insurance and risk analysis, or I don't know about like whatever the things are. And
Mhm.
I think that is one of the things about having a calling where you actually have to risk letting other people be a part of
Correct.
it, take a
Mhm.
role, acknowledge where your own limitations are about knowledge or reach or capacity,
Mhm.
so that it builds, right? Rather than
That's
getting too
complete.
tight. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think calling also comes to different people because they have certain gifts as well. So, for example, myself, I think the fact that I have the ability to organize, the fact that I would say I can set up an office very quickly. I can set up the planning and the systems that are needed. That is part of my gifting. And maybe that is one of the reasons why this came to me, because then I'm able to organize all that and make it work in a good way, in a proper way. Yeah, I've seen that sometimes the gifting is not just about feeling the compassion, but also having the capacity to do what it takes to bring in all the different um, other inputs that are needed. For example, bring counselors, bring teachers, get the legal input and all those things. The capacity to do that and to recognize what is needed, that is important. That is important.
That is so good. Thank you. Like I would never even have pieced like administrator background that the calling comes to you for that, you know, and maybe another talent for somebody else could be being able to inspire so that you can pull in an administrator if I don't have that background. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Let me just check if others who are here have questions. We still have a few minutes and I want to make sure if there's, you know, questions, comments, things that this has resonated for with you.
I'd love to just say thank you. I'm so moved by your story, Lucy. I've been following you for a while, and I'm excited to meet you in January. There's a group of us
Nice.
going. But I also want to thank Barbara. I wrote in the chat that it takes a little pebble, you know, that ripple effect. And you created a ripple effect for us in Canada. And you and Far are bringing this opportunity, this beautiful gift to us to be able to learn and grow alongside Wema is, I'm just so moved and looking forward to it. And I know I will learn so much more than what I can bring and give. But if I can bring one little thing, and it's just passion and that caring heart to give back, then I know that I will have done my job. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we have a few folks here today, Shannon being one of them, who are heading to Mombasa, January 2025. And with the Kutana Wema program, we are so happy we get to come every year and get to be present, you know, get to see the incredible work you're doing and bring what we have to offer. You know, this whole idea of, I think with the Kutana Wema program, even people who say yes to come, pretty consistently, I've heard the message where they're like, ooh, I heard about your program and I just knew I had to go. And they sometimes like, I don't even know why. I never even planned on going to Africa before. I don't know anything about Kenya, whatever, right?
Wow.
But there is that, you know, sometimes there's like the big sea calling like this with Wema, and sometimes there's those smaller sea callings where something comes to us and we're like, oh, wakes us up and we're like, there's something here. It's got a little zing to it, and I know I just want to be a part of it. And knowing that we can kind of, we don't always have to be at the front leadership place to still have a calling, still act and feel like we are moving in line with what we believe in, what is important to us, and the kind of person we want to be in the world, right? So all of those, you know, the big C calling and the small C calling, I think add up to making change in the world. And that's something I know. I really deeply believe that personal and social change is possible. And it's why I do what I do. It's why I do everything, actually, that I do. So knowing what that is for each of us, I think matters.
Well, I'm looking so forward to meeting you all next year. Thank you so much for being part of Wema. This started almost like, you know, just a small get together between friends, and the family is growing.
Indeed. And both you and I come from big families, and you know what? It always feels better when you got more people around and it's a little loud and messy.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
feel like that goes with it.
Yeah. And with everyone putting in their little bits, we can change a lot. We can change. Like they say, we can change the world. There's just more of us to put in our bit. And we all have something to offer. There's no doubt about that. We all have something to offer.
Here. That is a beautiful place, I think, for us to end for today. And I encourage folks to think about what your next step is, and where are those places you have a sense of calling, and what are the things you want to hang on to from learning with Lucy today. And don't be strangers. You know, here at Redbird, we do free webinars every year. This year, the series is called Mending the Fabric, Thought Leadership and Change, and Lucy's our #1 webinar. We offer them for free as a commitment to financial accessibility. You know, I think mental health supports are necessary for all of us at some point in our lives, and so Redbird wants to be a part of making that happen. And share about Wema. We have encouraged folks to come on as donors, to come on the program, to talk about things that matter. And so please stay in touch and reach out if there are questions along the way. Another really, really big happy big-hearted thank you, Lucy, for your talk today.
Thank you too. Thank you, Barbara, for organizing this. Thank you so much. It's heartwarming. It's so nice to meet you all. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.